By now, I hope you will have watched all my videos about preparing for law school, about having a successful experience in your first year, and hopefully you've watched the video about the law school timeline. In all of those videos, I'm giving you a tremendous amount of tips and ways that you can overcome a number of obstacles, both in getting to law school and being successful in those first crucial semesters. In this video, I'm going to just give you a few insights, cautions, some tips, and ideas that I have about how you can enjoy the law school experience and make it something that's going to be worth your while. These are tips and cautions that I have learned not just from my own experience as a law student at George Washington University Law School, but also in talking to other people who have gone to law school, other colleagues of my own, as well as people who are practitioners. And overwhelmingly, these are the kinds of things that you should be thinking about while you're in law school. The first thing that I would highly recommend is that you stay focused on the things that actually matter. In the video in which I talked about the first couple of semesters of law school, that first year, a lot of things really do matter. Your exams are the things that really do matter in those first couple semesters. And that has a lot to do with the fact that you're going to be seeking jobs, you're going to be looking for on-campus interviews, you're going to want clerkship placements, or you're going to want to be able to do things like moot court or law review. And the bottom line is that your GPA, the three-digit number that is on your transcript, is oftentimes the metric by which employers are going to be judging you against your peers. So focus on the things that are actually going to make your life easier in the long run. Of course, that includes grades, but it also means studying in the right way, focusing on only those things that are actually going to help you when it comes time to do the exam. In my video discussing outlines and discussing how you can use those outlines in your exams, you should be focused on what actually goes into an outline, as opposed to those things that maybe are a distraction, that maybe your professor has purposefully discussed as a way to kind of show the nuances in the cases, but which only score you a couple of points on the exams. In terms of all those extracurriculars, there's lots of things that are going on at any given time in a law school. Those things are fun and they're enjoyable, but oftentimes the things that really do matter are the ones that you're going to be graded upon. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't have any fun during law school, and that's something I'm actually going to talk about in a tip in just a second. But what I mean is that oftentimes students think that I have to do everything and I have to bite off more than I can chew during law school. Remember to stay focused and to look at those things that actually matter for your career. That's going to pay off much more in the long run. And if you need to know what I'm talking about, please check out some of my other videos, especially those about your first year of law school. Another thing that I highly recommend in terms of having a caution in going into law school is you need to chart your own path. One of the things that I talk about in my other videos, and which I will discuss much more when I talk about working for corporate firms or big law, is that law schools have a tendency to want to filter students into one career path. The law schools are making money. They're a profit-making enterprise. Oftentimes, law schools are looking for ways to maximize the numbers of students in their classes while being able to give them the right amount of education, and then to balance that out against bar passage rates and placements in the most prestigious jobs. They want a law school alumni network of people that have done very well, who are getting those prestigious careers, and who are making money to be able to support, as an alumni network, future students. It's all a very important and elaborate process for the law schools, and as a profit-making enterprise, they're going to be looking for ways to encourage you to make their lives a lot easier. I'm not suggesting anything nefarious on the part of law schools, and this is just simply the way economics works. And what that means for you is that you need to go in clear-headed and as a good economic actor. You need to not just passively receive what law school is going to give you. Now, let's take my own experience for just a second. When I went to law school, I had every intention that I wanted to be a professor someday. That was my goal from the time that I was 12 years old. And I thought that law school was going to be the thing that was going to get me there. That by graduating with a Juris Doctorate, that I was going to be qualified to teach constitutional law, and I had all these dreams of wearing uh, plaid and all sorts of other colors that you would see in a professor's movies, and patches on the elbows, and living my life as a expert on constitutional law. And I went in with probably the wrong attitude. I went in naively thinking that perhaps by just getting this degree, it was going to pay off in some dramatic sense. And while I went to a good law school, the realities were that my law school was geared towards putting students into lucrative careers, to guiding them into big law and helping them get those corporate positions. After all, that's what helped my law school gain in terms of rankings, and that's what gives them greater standing and greater tuition dollars. And so I went in very passive. I went into my first year experience thinking that I'm going to figure this out as I go along. And it became very clear to me as I started in the first couple semesters that I was in a competition with a few other people for very important jobs. And so I bought into that idea. I bought into the idea that I needed to get the perfect grade, and that I absolutely had to get this first year internship, and that if I didn't do well in on-campus interviews, that I was going to be a failure, and that if I didn't get that summer associate position in my second year, and that if I didn't get the firm offer at the end of my summer associate position, that I was going to be an utter failure and that law school was a waste of time. In reality, very many people go to law school for a variety of different reasons, and they find out pretty quickly that by charting your own course, you can actually have a very rich and fruitful experience in law school. As you'll find when you get into law school, there are a number of career counselors and resources that are there to certainly help you, and you should take advantage of them. But you should also know that there will be a bias in favor of placing you in those most lucrative positions. So I encourage you to reach out to other professors within the law school, professors who have had some experience in the nonprofit sector, or who have worked in government, or have done criminal defense or criminal prosecution. Maybe they've done things that aren't even related to actual legal practice, but have some connection to politics or business. As I've said many times in these videos, law school prepares you for one thing, and that is to be a lawyer. But there's lots of different kinds of lawyers, and you don't necessarily have to follow the same path that every other person has gone on before you. And you certainly don't have to do anything that you don't want to do with your life. So my advice to you is to go in clear-headed and to tell yourself, I'm open to new possibilities, but this is why I wanted to go to law school. And hang on to that. Let that be your guiding star, as opposed to passively letting somebody tell you what you're supposed to be doing with your life. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. The other thing that I would suggest is that you manage your expectations wisely. Managing your expectations means managing not just the expectations of what classes will be like, but also managing expectations about yourself. So in terms of managing expectations about classes, you should remember that you're not going to become an expert overnight. Your first year of law school is going to be a whirlwind, and you're going to be dumped in terms of the amount of information that you have. By the time you get to your second year, you're going to be very stressed out with all of the various things that you're having to do. Those on-campus interviews will come quickly, and all of those activities like law review and moot court, even working in clinics, those kinds of things are going to take up a lot of your time. And so you should manage your expectations in terms of what you're able to retain from those classes. You should know that much of what you're going to experience in that first year is going to seem like a lot of work, and a lot of it might feel like drudgery. So you should go in open to the possibility that not everything is going to be perfectly pleasant, and that not every class hour is going to be the kind of intellectual stimulation that maybe you got as an undergrad. The other kind of expectation you should manage is that about yourself. You should know yourself before going into law school. You should know what you're capable of. By this point, you've gone through undergraduate, you've got 4 years worth of college under your belt, you have a bachelor's degree in some major, and you know that you are successful as a student. So you are aware of that. You're perfectly aware of the fact that you're capable of doing well. You should also know that you're not superhuman. And you should remember that at various stages you are going to do things that you are not happy about. That there will be times where you recognize, I could have done better on that exam. or I could have understood that case a little bit better, or why didn't I write my brief in this way? That's going to plague you throughout your whole career. Lawyers make mistakes even on into their 40 or 50 years worth of practice. The truth is that you are a human being who's growing and changing and developing all throughout law school. And as you are learning new information, your values and your insights about the world are going to change too. So logically, you can expect that you're going to have some ups and some downs. I would encourage you to embrace that reality. Manage your expectation throughout law school, and I can assure you that you will never be totally caught off guard. Now, my last two cautions involve things about your internal self. I am a huge proponent of mindfulness. If you've ever taken any of my courses live, you know that I am a huge proponent of people taking a few moments and encouraging their own mental health to flourish. I, as someone who has experienced many, many different mental health crises in his life, I know firsthand what it is like to feel the stress buckle upon you. So my last two tips are these. First is that you should manage your relationships. You should maintain them as much as you possibly can. We are social creatures, and we're built to be in social situations. We want to be with other human beings, and we need to feel that connection. Law school and being a lawyer is all about conflict. At the end of the day, you are a person who's trying to solve a problem, potentially a very high stakes problem for somebody who is distraught, who is angry, and who potentially wants some revenge in some sense. Even those people who are simply doing transactional things like merging two businesses together, there's still an enormous amount of conflict that can be involved in that. And as a lawyer, as a legal practitioner, you're going to experience conflict all the time. So, if your professional life is constantly about these separations between you and another person, you must, in your private life, maintain those close relationships that give you comfort and preserve your connections with other people. It's important that you maintain time for your family, for your friends, for those people that give value to you in your life. I highly suggest that before you even start in law school that you recognize who your support network is. Who are those people that will build you up, who will take pride in the work that you're doing. And if there are people in your life that you know you cannot count on to help instill in you that kind of pride and confidence in yourself, well, then my suggestion is that you manage that relationship in a different way. And you maybe give yourself some space from that relationship. It's really crucial to remember this because as you meet new people in law school, you will develop new friendships, some of which will go on into the decades. I think I've indicated multiple times in some of these videos that I've made some relationships from law school that are never ever going to go away. And because of that, I felt that I always had people that I could count on in those hardest moments of law school. And you can absolutely do that too. Now, my last piece of advice is managing your stress, and this is all internal. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this, and of course, the internet is full of lots of different options. But my advice is fairly simple, that you need to take a break for your own mental health. The truth is that there is a lot that you can be doing in law school, and there is a lot that you should be doing in order to maximize your ability and to maximize your possibilities. So you should absolutely work hard, and there's no question that you should give it as much attention as you can. But you should also remember, and this goes back to my point about managing your own expectations, you should also remember that as a human being, there are times when you must come up for air, where you must, in a sense, clear your brain of all the fog and all the problems that might be causing you stress. As someone who did not do that very well, I can attest to you right here and now in this video that you must manage these things early on in your life. For many of you, you're leaving undergrad and you're stepping into a professional world, one in which you will probably work for the next 4 to 5 decades of your life. And you're going to give it all that you have. You're going to spend most of the hours of your day working in this profession. And you are going to be giving all of your energy, oftentimes, to clients who really are just there and forming this relationship with you for monetary interests. And it will at times feel like you don't know what you're doing, that you're kind of lost at sea. And if you don't get control of it early on, there will come a point at which you will buckle under the stress. So, my strongest piece of advice right now, before you do anything else, before you begin studying for the LSAT, or before you start looking at your GPA, or before you start writing personal statements, or before you plunge into that first year of law school, my advice is to simply do right now what you must in order to manage your mental health. Take time to meditate, enjoy walking around in nature, take walks, get a pet. In my case, my pets don't exactly give me much free time and definitely don't relieve my stress, but maybe your pets do. Uh, find those things, find those outlets that are able to help reduce your anxieties and manage your emotions. Because if you don't, I can assure you that many, many lawyers before you who have not managed it have proven to be disastrous. The legal profession is full of suicide, it's full of substance abuse, and it's full of a lot of self abuse. And so I encourage you, before you go into this profession, to be thinking about what's most important for you. Those are my tips and my cautions about law school and the experience itself. As I say, none of these things are about how you succeed or become a better and more well-placed person. Rather, these are tips to be thinking about and hanging on to no matter where you go and no matter what law school you go to. You're going to do great. I promise you that.